Okay, we're going to call to order the regular city council meeting of May 28th, 2024. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen?
Here.
Salvia?
Here.
Hauser?
Here.
Jones?
Here.
King?
Here.
Sage?
Here.
Trent?
Here.
Vicki, would you now please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everybody, for coming. Looks like a maybe threatening night. Again. As you know, our parade got rained out, unfortunately, in our little ceremony. But we are lucky enough to have, we had a speaker coming, and he has agreed to come tonight and just say a couple words about Memorial Day so that everybody can kind of make up for that and hear from him. So I just would like to introduce, it's retired Colonel Thomas Doman. He was in the Marine Corps for 29 years. He is a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, where he played 4 years of varsity football. And he did tell me he was 2-2 against the Army. But I'm sure the other two, those were not your fault.
I was injured 1 year.
You were injured, that's it. And I just learned tonight, his son was the punter on the University of Michigan National Championship football team.
All right.
Wow.
Yes. So he was a 3-year letter winner in football. He served in Operation Desert Storm and Iraqi Freedom. And as I say, retired from a colonel and has won many decorations for outstanding service. So we thank you for your service. We welcome you, and come on up and say a few words.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. As he whispered, he said, "Earn this." As he was dying on the bridge, he said it again so Private Ryan could hear it. He said, "Earn this." These are the final words of Tom Hanks' character, Captain John Miller, on that bridge in the iconic scene in Saving Private Ryan, as they were fighting the Germans on the bridge and staving them off so they would stop them in their advance. I'm always emotionally shaken and overwhelmed with tears as I watch that scene, knowing that a squad of 12 Army Rangers searched the France countryside through enemy territory to find Private Ryan, to tell him he lost his 3 brothers. Now, I have 8 brothers and 1 sister. And if that was my family, there would have been at least 6 of them in the war at that time. They also had a mission to return him to his mom, who, as you know, had 4 blue stars on her door. But now 3 of those turned to gold because they were killed in action. And Private Ryan was the sole heir to their family name. And that's what they were protecting. I weep when I see the sedan, the Army sedan, drive down the long, winding road. And her mom kind of moves the window above the kitchen sink and sees that it's army green with a white star on it. So she knows it's serious. But when the chaplain gets out of the back seat, she's overwhelmed with emotion. And crumbles to her knees and finally to the ground. All I could think about was my mom getting a visit from a naval chaplain and a fellow colonel after I was deployed to Desert Shield Storm. And then 20 years later, my wife getting a knock on the door. When I was recalled from the Marine Corps Reserves to active duty and deployed to Iraq for a year and a half for Operation Iraqi Freedom. Fortunately for them, those visits never happened. But for many, they did. Memorial Day is a solemn day of remembrance. It is a day that we remember over 1.3 servicemen and women who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our freedom and our incredible country. Sadly, most Americans see this weekend as a long weekend and the start of the summer and barbecues and going up north and sailing on boats or skiing. We have Memorial Day sales in stores and tons of advertisement to buy everything from cars, furniture, and other items. I don't see it that way, and neither do any of you. And that's why we're here, to remember our fallen heroes, friends, and family. I lost 2 Marines during my second deployment to Iraq. The first one was Second Lieutenant Ryan LeDuc, who had just finished artillery school and was attached to our unit to protect the convoys to and from Syria and Jordan to get food, water, fuel, to support the 10,000 men and women and soldiers, Navy SEALs, medical personnel, Air Force pilots and airmen, Marine Corps pilots, and supporting units to run the airfield, chow hall, and base security. The base was huge, so the convoys ran several times during the week. Second Lieutenant Ryan LeDuc was 28 years old. He was engaged to be married to a woman he met in college at Southern Illinois and was survived by his mother, father, 3 brothers, and 2 sisters. He died when his Humvee rolled over during one of the convoys. It was a hot September day, and he was sitting in the back seat, and he literally just took off his helmet to wipe his face and his head because he was sweating because there's no air conditioning in armored Humvees. And the right rear tire blew out and it rolled over, and he did not survive his injuries. The second Marine was Staff Sergeant Jason Leto. He was one of our own. He was a Michigander. He served in my unit, Marine Wing Support Group 47 at Salfridge. He was 31 years old. He was married to his wife, Michelle, and had 3 sons, Nathan, 11, Joseph, 3, and Joshua, 2. He was an EOD tech, which means he had one of the toughest jobs there. He was the Marine that protected the convoys from IEDs, and he would defuse bombs. And it was one of the scariest jobs, hearing some of the stories they had. But Jason Leto wasn't one of these Marines that just said, I'm going to do my job and go home. He was creating a visual library of bombs that he had diffused and made them inert, meaning they were safe. So if you can picture this huge base, it was all sand, and he put out a, let's just call it 20 yards by 20 yards, and rows of all these bombs that he put out there, and he told the next EOD tech that was replacing him, on this bomb, cut the red wire, then cut the green wire. This bomb, the gray wire and the yellow wire. This one, and all the way down the line, he had just tens of bombs that he had diffused, and he was teaching the next EOD techs that followed him. So one day, as he was driving around base with his EOD gunnery sergeant and master sergeant, they saw a shot down Iraqi MiG, and they saw the pilot ejection seat. And so there's a bomb, there's explosion on the ejection seat, And all three of them inspected it, and they said it was inert, meaning it was safe to take back to his library. So they put it in the back of the Humvee, drove around, bouncing around, got back to where they unloaded it, and as they unloaded it, someone hit a trigger, and it shot right into Staff Sergeant Lito's chest, and he happened to be standing right in front of a wall, and he hit the wall with such force and ricocheted with his head. Now, it was another scalding hot day, so just before he did, he took off his Kevlar vest and helmet, so he was unprotected. He, too, did not survive his injuries. And that was 3 days after Christmas, on December 28th. There was a huge theater on base, and it was packed with over 600 sailors and Marines and soldiers and airmen, and you just couldn't hear, couldn't see a dry eye in the face, because this was one of our own, ones that was protecting those that went out there, convoys, week in and week out. I tell you the story of these two Marines because I was the executive officer of the unit and the safety officer. So I felt responsible for their safety. These were my Marines. Earn this. Earn this. Months later, after I returned from Iraq, we had a ceremony for Mrs. Michelle Lito and her three sons, Nathan, Joseph, and Joshua. I was trying to keep my composure as they read the citation and presented her sons with college scholarships from the Marine Corps League. All I could think about was my three children, Taylor, who was 13, Ashley, who was 11, and my new son, who was almost 3 years old, the same age as Joseph. When I raised my hand and took the oath to defend this country against enemies, foreign and domestic, as I entered into the Naval Academy, and then 4 years later, as I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps and proudly served 29 years, I knew that paying the ultimate sacrifice was part of that oath. But now that I'm retired, I pray for all the men and women and the families who did give their final devotion to our country. Earn this. Earn the freedom that these patriots give to us with their lives. We must carry on what they died for. And no matter whatever skirmish or war or conflict, remember that all gave some, and some gave all. Thank you, and God bless our country.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you very much for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for reminding us to never forget and to earn this. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Hard to top that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, so thank you.
Yeah.
That was quite a Michigan football season too, wasn't it? Yeah. Do we have any other public comment tonight? Okay. Brian, is there any? Doesn't look like it.
Thank you. There are no callers online right now.
Okay. Next, we have approval of the minutes. This is a consideration of the minutes of the regular meeting of May 13th, 2024.
So moved?
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Support.
Support by Councilmember Sage. Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. We do not have anything on the consent agenda tonight, or old business or table items, public hearings, legislative deliberation, on to reports and regular business. First is a consideration request to discuss the issue of city council members' compensation for their service on boards, commissions, and committees. So I think tonight we have kind of a two-track thing is first, maybe hear from the city manager or city attorney on if there is interest in changing the compensation, what needs to be done, and I think there was a legal opinion on that, and if, sounds like that something needs to be done, we'd have to come back to another meeting with different ordinances, and then also to talk about the compensation itself. The treasurer Maggio, as I've talked to a few people, gave a number of if it's 100, this is for city council people, if it's $100 a meeting, it comes out to roughly $40,000. We're spending $10,000 now. So, I mean, there's kind of two issues to be decided. I don't think we're going to decide anything tonight because we, I believe, have to come back at a future meeting to vote on some ordinances. So, Mr. City Attorney, is that somewhat correct?
Yes, I'll take over from there. So the request to us was to, currently city council members are paid per meeting for their attendance at city council meetings, and also then planning commission gets paid for theirs. And those are the two that city council members currently get paid for if they are there. So I believe it right now, it's the 65 for the mayor, either 55 or 60 for mayor pro tem and 50 for city council members per meeting. So the request to us was, it really isn't a legal opinion as much as we were asked to take a look to see how compensation, if city council wanted to change the way compensation's handled, what that would look like. And so the clerk and I went through, and the clerk pulled the attachment and created the attachment just to give city council the idea of how many different boards and commissions that city council members have seats on. And it's not just, city council, planning commission. I mean, we received the reports from city council, but as you can see, I think there was upwards of 20 different boards. And currently, city council members get paid, like I said, for city council meetings, and if they're on planning commission, that would count as well. So I guess in the way back, city council, the amount per meeting was set forth in the city charter, and it was, I believe, $10 a meeting. City council then proposed a charter amendment back some years ago that would essentially say it took out the dollar amounts and just said that it would be handled by way of ordinance. And city council a long time ago adopted the Home Rule Cities Act allows for a compensation commission. Compensation commission is established by state law. It was not mandatory. City council adopted that, but they did. And so the procedure for compensation, because they have one, is to every odd year, the compensation commission is supposed to meet and to make a recommendation for compensation until the next odd year. And so then city council has, they consider the proposal, and then if city council agrees, then they pass a resolution, and that becomes the compensation. If the city council does not agree with the recommendation, then it reverts back to the current compensation. So unless and until the compensation commission took action the way Rochester has it set up, there would just be, that would be the compensation moving forward. So there's really two different things. One issue you have is you have a compensation commission that hasn't met in a couple of those sessions because there's not enough people on the board or on the commission to make that determination. But I think that if they did meet, it would really be more of a dollar per meeting type discussion as it has been versus a change in how city council members get paid, if at all, for all the different boards and commissions that they're on. So that would be, that's where it gets into the most, or I'll say many of the boards that are listed in the city code specifically say that compensation is not paid for those, and I gave some examples. There's more in there, but I just gave, I think, 4 or 5 ones where they specifically say that, that members shall serve without compensation. So really, this will be a policy issue for city council. This was not generated by administration or staff, but as in response to city council members asking about different compensation. So if city council wanted to, 2 things. One is if they can't get a compensation commission together, that makes it a little hard for that. So if city council wanted to make the determination of compensation, it could remove the compensation commission from the ordinances and just go back to city council making the decisions on that. But unless that happens, then it really is set by code on what city council, how they're going to be paid. So a policy decision, I think I said there's about 20 boards. So if there's a desire to be paid for any, some, all, other board participation, then that would take some ordinance amendments and essentially policy decisions on this board. So I think that's probably where the discussion would start. Yeah, right now it's the compensation for the mayor's position is $70 per meeting, $65 for mayor pro tem, and $60 for city council members. And there is a maximum in the code of up to 24 meetings per year. So those changes were adopted unanimously in the past. There's been discussions here and there about compensation. There was a movement at some point of eliminating pay or refusing. I think Mayor will remember that. But that was contrary to the Compensation Commission, and so then it didn't pass. That sentiment didn't pass, and the city council members were free to donate their money back to the city if they wanted to. So, so this is really a discussion for you. I just kind of lay out kind of the process if city council does want to make changes. Clerk, city clerk, anything that you think I'm missing at this point? So the floor is yours. You can make no change. You can make some change. You can discuss. That's the background.
Right, and I just will say, with the $100 figure, that was just a number that was used, and that number came. So probably any higher would be more and less, and so council discussion.
Let's see. So,
Councilmember Jones.
sorry. Just to clarify, because I was confused a little. So you're saying that we would have the option of dissolving the compensation committee? And then, so can you explain that piece just again?
Sure.
Please.
So the Home Rule Cities Act state statute allows municipalities to have a compensation commission. City of Rochester went forward with that and has a compensation commission established by its ordinances. So the task of the compensation commission is to meet every year, to have a recommendation for compensation, then that comes to city council for consideration. So if city council did not want to have the compensation commission anymore, it could amend the ordinance to remove that from its books. So you wouldn't have a compensation commission anymore. The charter would still be what the charter is, which is that the ordinances, that the compensation, and I put that in there, the first page of the memo is section 3.4 says that the mayor and city council shall receive remuneration for service as set forth by ordinance. Such salaries shall constitute the only salary or remuneration which may be paid for services by the mayor or council for their term of office. So it's not, the charter doesn't require the compensation commission. That's how it's set by ordinance, is that compensation commission is in the ordinance. So you could get rid of you could remove that ordinance which has the compensation commission, and then you would just be up to city council to decide by ordinance what compensation is going to be for city council members.
Just a follow-up question real quick. So the compensation commission is only for compensation of the city council?
Correct.
And they haven't met when was the last time they met?
2019.
2019, okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Hauser?
If I read your note correctly, it states that the Compensation Commission doesn't have the full amount of members. Is that correct?
Right now, it doesn't.
Do you know how many were short?
All of them.
And how many, okay, so how many make up the?
Five, there's five, it requires five. So you need a quorum of three, and currently there's only one.
There's only one. Do we know who that person is? But I don't mean to put him on blast or.
Not right off the.
Okay, so we need 4 people
if-
to get a full, or at least 2 more to have a quorum.
Correct.
But the quorum would have to vote unanimously, correct?
Correct.
All right. I don't know if this is appropriate time or not, but just my view is I would feel much more comfortable with the Compensation Commission determining the pay structure or however this board is compensated. I think for, number one, that's what they are, by statute or ordinance required to do. Number two is the optics. I just don't like the idea of us being in charge of our own pay. I'd like a third party to do it. And number three is I think that's even more motivation to try and fill some of these vacancies on the committee. That's just my own personal view, though, when it comes to how we're gonna, I agree that it needs to be adjusted. I just think a third party ought to do the adjusting.
I'd agree with that.
Councilmember Jones?
So just to clarify, so if we're able to get some people to volunteer for that, they still, if they recommend, those ordinances have to be changed, correct, or no? If they recommend, we do have compensation for sitting on commissions and boards.
So that's correct. The way I could see going down the path of the Compensation Commission, let's say that Compensation Commission wants to pay per meeting regardless, all boards and commissions, then I would say the recommendation is that they would come back with a dollar amount and say, for these boards, that this is, recommended, that city council members get paid on. And so then if city council goes along with that, then it would take an ordinance amendment to change a number
Some
of
those,
these
yeah.
boards.
Okay.
Now, if the Compensation Commission says they don't if the recommendation isn't to get paid for every board and commission meeting and just to keep status quo with planning commission or city council meetings, they could make a recommendation to keep it to just those two. But here's the amount. There's different pay structures. Cities are all over the place when it comes to benefits and compensation. It could be that the Compensation Commission says, we don't want to do it on a per meeting basis. We think that that city council members recognizing that you're on various boards and commissions should be paid, we'll call it a salary for lack of a better word. So for instance, instead of a $65 per meeting, maybe they just come up with a number for the whole year, recognizing that everyone on city council attends various boards and commissions. Because one of the things that you should probably think about too is if you're talking about city council members getting paid for their attendance on a particular board, then what do you do with the other board members on that board? Is it what you want to do to have just a city council member getting paid, or is it everybody on that board getting paid? And you can see where that rabbit hole would happen, right? A consideration, because that number could get quite large. Or, politics, the optics, I think is the word is used is, do you want a city council member being paid on a board that the other board members aren't being paid on? And so, one of the ways to address or to avoid that is maybe it's just an increased yearly amount that city councilors are going to get paid, assuming that they're going to be serving on various boards and commissions. So that's, again, a policy issue, but, it's just one of the things that we were kind of noodling on how, because I think the number, if it was $100, I think is what you were indicating, if it's just city council members getting paid for the boards and commissions, it jumps to like $45,000 a year. So not saying if that's the right number, maybe it's not a per board, meeting, but maybe that's a compensation. So that's something that the Compensation Commission would then meet and discuss and figure out what do they see. And my guess is they would look at how other cities do it, you know, however they get paid. You know, some get benefits, some get whatever. So, yeah, I think there's different ways that the Compensation Commission could take a look at that.
Councilmember Trent?
Okay, so the steps then would be not to change the ordinance now, but then to recommend filling the space, the vacant seats of the compensation, was it commission, I guess, is what it, or a committee? It's a commission, right?
Commission, yeah.
Okay, and then they meet every other year? Is that in the, I mean, every odd year?
Odd years.
So then they would meet next year, is that what you're saying? That wouldn't be changed? Just wondering how it worked
Correct.
before?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
correct.
So they meet in 2025, once you gather and you need five?
You need at least three. The
Okay.
ordinance is set up for five, so ideally you would have five. But if you have less than five, well, regardless of how many you have, you need at least three to act.
Yeah, yeah. Well, how this was when brought up was another city that was saying that, in other cities as well, that there's some sort of compensation for council members on the boards, and that's what we were researching to figure out what the steps would be to bring this forth to this council. Yeah. And hasn't been really discussed.
Councilmember Jones?
Just two quick things. So that seems odd to me that it's set up for odd years or even years, and there's no way for them to meet sooner than a year from now?
That's the way that your ordinance is set. And I think I don't recall if the state law says every odd year or every 2 years. I don't remember off the top of my head. I apologize for that. But it's set up in every odd year, which aligns with your elections, which is every even year. So it would be setting it for the next,
Yeah, their elections are odd years also.
I'm sorry, odd years. I misspoke. So it's meeting odd years, which aligns with your local elections.
And then the other comment, and then you're up next, is I believe we earmarked in the budget $50,000 for compensation. And so the 45 would be under even what we have earmarked in the 2000.
Okay?
Yeah. That was one of the things correct? Yeah, okay.
That was the budget number.
Yeah, that is in the budget right now.
Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is for the city clerk, because I believe I understand this process. We make an impassioned solicitation here at a council meeting to fill vacancies on every board and commission.
Correct.
Okay? And we repeat that, right? We even put it on the website. So I guess my question to this body is, since January 22nd of 2018, we can't get anybody to serve on the compensation committee, do we just keep asking, or?
Good question.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
Thank you. So I have a thought on that, because I've been thinking about this topic, and to me, this topic goes back to public service, and, why do people serve? People serve out of a heart, and they serve out of a love for our community, which is, to the one of us, I'm sure we all say that. We love Rochester, and that's why we serve. And that's why people serve on boards and commissions, too, because they love Rochester, and they want to keep Rochester the way it is and what they love about it. So, but I think we can do a better job of, and I say we collectively, city council, administration, of recruiting people to our boards and commission, educating them, communicating to them, training them for their jobs, because when people feel appreciated and part of something, it's easy to bring someone else on, and we're gonna attract more people. And I remember hearing a few years ago, we used to do appreciation events for people that served on boards and commissions and some of our volunteers. And, maybe we just need to really refocus on this and put together a game plan where we do have some openings. And it's not just this commission, but the other ones. And let's stabilize the troops, because we've got some great people here in Rochester and who I know would love to serve.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Mr. City Attorney?
Thank you for the opportunity. I just looked at the Home Rule City Act on the odd year, and it is by state statute that the commission meets in each odd numbered year.
Okay, it's good to know. Good.
Well, does it make sense to ask city administration to look at what other cities do, or is there any appetite for that? Get some, Councilmember Jones?
But if they did do that, which I thought actually was already happening for some reason,
think it was.
I still think it has to, doesn't it still have to be this compensation commission anyway? So even if you did all the research for them, it still has to, and to Steve's point, I don't know, maybe because of this topic, it'll make that commission more exciting, but why would we think 6 years later, when they're not meeting, there's not board, there's not members on there, why do we think that will change?
Well, I think, I mean, just, excuse me, looking back, I think there was a number of years, the city clerk was here as well, I mean, I think there was a number of years, they voted no increase, they voted a $5 increase, so I think there was a feeling of, what was the point of, one, serving on it, and two, having it and even caring about it if it was, nothing ever changed. Councilmember Trent.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea to have research done on the cities of our sizes or similar to our sizes, because this is where it all started. We were at the Sister City Committee meeting, and Deb and I, and I don't know, were you there as well? That's right, yeah, and they were just talking, and they brought this up, and we just thought we'd look into it, and this is as far as we got,
So maybe ask administration to do some benchmarks for cities around here on the size.
I think we have that data.
Okay.
Okay,
So, yeah, we can get that easily.
okay.
So we can
Okay.
solve it.
So,
Councilmember Sage?
thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as part of that analysis that the city administration will do, because I got the impression at that same meeting that they also paid everyone that volunteered on a board and commission, which is something we actually discussed in goals and objectives this year. But I think that was lost in translation when we got to whatever dollar figure we put in the budget. So it would be helpful if we're going to do that analysis, let's find out, do other cities actually assist their volunteers in serving?
Mr. Mayor, if I made the staff meeting right after that Saturday meeting, I'm doing a flashback here. We talked about Anthony crashed out information quickly, and we all sat down and went over every single board, how many members, took a calendar out, how many meetings, put a number to it. It's over $100,000. But that was one side of it. Then it was like, okay, well, now let's break it back to the comments where it just council people, knowing that there's, some people won't be paid, some people will, but there's different reasons and rationale. So I know we have that kind of data. But I know we can follow up with the other cities and then find out, is it all members, just their electeds, et cetera? We'll get you that quickly.
Okay, anything further? Okay, so we'll wait for that. Okay. Next is a consideration request to replace high service pump number 2 at the water treatment plant. Not pump 1 or pump 3. That's right. Just pump 2.
No, it's just kind of like our wells where we have 5, but they're numbered 1 through 7. 2 of them are no longer in use. So high service pump number 2 at the water treatment plant was scheduled to be rebuilt this year. It was budgeted for this fiscal year for a rebuild, and while it was being taken apart by Peerless Midwest and tested, it was recommended to actually be replaced instead of rebuilt. This is the last out of the 4 to be rebuilt or replaced. The quote from Midwest, who has done bulk of the work at our treatment plant and knows it pretty well, quote to replace is $29,470.02. This is one of 4 high service pumps that pumps the treated water from our treatment plants into town. They don't all run at once, but we are required to have redundancy in case one were to go down. The city would not lose water. This pump's an original from 1989, so pretty old. Just goes to show the great care and from the maintenance we put into our equipment to make sure that they last a long time. There's the quote from Peerless in your packet. So this would be installing a new 60 horsepower premium efficient inverter duty motor to replace the existing aging motor.
Councilmember Jones?
I just have two quick questions. So the credit, do they take the old motor and they're able to do so? Is that a credit there, that 4,100 on the list?
Yeah, that was for, I believe it's part of our contract where they do kind of the annual preventive maintenance. And so with that, they provide a credit for any additional work they do with us.
So they provide us with a credit, okay. And then the other thing, it's just a curious question. In the $6,260, it does say travel. So is this a company that's out of the area or something? Why would travel be included? Just curious question.
I think that's usually included with any time and maintenance or time and in parts or whatever they usually use the terminology. That's typical.
Typical, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I think with raising gas prices, it's a way for contractors to,
Yeah, that's
No.
understandable.
Mayor Pro Tem Salvia?
Thank you. This is important. Our water system is very important. So at the last meeting, you let us know that Peerless was looking at if they could repair it or replace it. So sounds like our long-term contractor with Peerless, who we've worked with in the past, has said we need to replace this. I'd make a motion to replace the high-service water pump number 2 at the water treatment plant.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem Salvia,
I'll support.
support by Councilmember Trent. Further discussion? Madam Clerk, the roll, please.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes,
Kane,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes.
Thank you. Next is consideration of City Beautiful Commission request for the installation of a 4-panel mural to be placed on the Kiwanis building. Ms. Murphy, welcome.
Mr. Mayor, can I tee it up here for you?
Yes.
While they're getting their presentation ready here. So it hasn't gone unnoticed to a lot of people, including us, that the Kiwanis shelter was in need of some love. Obviously, the easy thing would be just tear it down and build something new like we did with the comfort station or the band shell. But there's a lot of emotion behind that building. So give DPW all the credit they got in there. If you've noticed already, Mark the painter, how he does this, I don't know, one day, strips it, paints it all, gets it done. Jason worked with our plumbing folks. We got a new plumbing line running into there. Now we have a functioning kitchen for when they have their concerts, et cetera. Next week, we're taking out the whole slab and getting a brand-new slab put in with ADA compliance and all of the edges flared down and new landscaping, so it'll look like a brand-new facility. So knowing that was coming, we worked with the City Beautiful Commission to what can we do to really gussy it up, and we're pretty proud of our murals in town. We've got some great statement murals, so we challenged the commission to take a look at that. How could we do it? We went back and forth on how we could do it, painted on the building, putting up panels, and what you're going to see is the result of that. And we're real proud of the efforts of City Beautiful for getting us this far, and I think it's pretty cool. Janine?
Welcome.
Well, so this project did start when Rachel was the chair of it, and, oh, yeah, the microphone. So we just put out a request for proposal for, we did a call for artists to submit. They did write-ups and included sketches, and that was our focus of featuring native plants, trees, butterflies, highlights of the landscape of the park. The budget did go to City Council last year, and it was improved for $8,000 for City Beautiful. And then that was added, Rachel applied for a grant from the Community Foundation, and so we were granted $1,000 from that. And the tree committee did pledge to add money if the mural included trees. So the budget has already been approved for this. We received 12 submissions. We put it out on Facebook, the DDA spread the word, Payne Creek Center for the Arts, and we received 12 final submissions back in April, end of March. And some of them were even from out of state, so we definitely did our job of spreading the word. So, we wanted the murals to reflect the city and the scope of the project that we had determined. Some of them were more like easier to rule out, like they didn't fit our scope, maybe too urban for the spot that we were looking for, things like that. And not also too similar to the already existing mural, which you can even see from this spot in the park. Anything you guys want to add? We narrowed it down to our top 3, and then we voted on those finalists to decide on the winner. So the person that we would like to do the panels is Chelsea Hensbergen from Washington, Michigan. Ended up with a local person. This is how she describes herself on her profile, Michigan native muralist. She's definitely done murals in large spots before. Some of the people had just done smaller installations, but she's done work for multiple cities and businesses, things like that. She has several years' experience designing, planning, creating large-scale murals in the public, private, and corporate settings. We really liked her style and thought it was a good fit for what we were going for. Here's some of her work that she's done in the past.
Question, and that the mural down in the bottom left corner,
Yeah.
isn't that a magical mural tour?
She was in the magical mural. I wasn't sure if that was the one.
Well, we had one that looked almost exactly
Yeah.
like that, and then we repurposed it into the farmer's market, the bathroom.
Oh,
The
okay.
following year. That's how much we loved it.
All right.
And I noticed it because I loved it and was happy to see it back.
That is one of the ones that really drew my eye to her
Yep.
work. I wish I could go back. I don't know how. This is a really recent one in Centerline. That's just some of the things that she included in her application. She wanted to celebrate the beauty of each of the Michigan season and encapsulate our local park surroundings. Just wanted to bring art to people in their everyday lives. So this is her just basic sketches that she first submitted to us. We get the bridge and the river under the bridge, skating on the pond in the winter. She gave a more detailed one when I told her that she was in the running for, to be selected. And then with Colin at the parks, we went and laid out the panels, just, a sample of them. We didn't physically do this, but we laid it out, measured everything out, decided on placement, and liked how the horizontal panels fit. A lot of people did vertical, and then she did horizontal, and we're like, well, I hope that fits, but tested it all out, and it fits. So we're just asking City Council for approval on our selected artist in these murals. Any questions?
Councilmember Trent?
Yeah, I heard bits and pieces of this, and I think you guys have done an excellent job in choosing a great artist. Another great mural is gonna, actually murals this time, is gonna be in our park. So I like it. I like your artist. I like her concepts. I like the way and I like her work as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Selvia?
Thank you. So, art is one of those things that's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and there's many different styles, and so I think murals in any city, township, wherever, it's, always kind of a delicate thing, what's the right mural for our community? I think she has a very professional style, a very high-quality style, and so I think her murals would make a beautiful addition to our park. And honestly, us having murals in Rochester, we know it's a competitive advantage because our neighboring surround us, they don't have murals. So I'd make a motion to approve Chelsea Hirschbergen for the four-season mural on the Kiwanis Shelter.
Support.
Motion by Mayor Pro Tem, support by Councilmember Trent.
Yep.
Further discussion?
I would,
Councilmember Hauser?
I'd just like to say thank you to the City Beautiful Commission. You guys do a fantastic job, and I know it's a lot of work, but the city looks as great as it does because of the work that you guys do for it. So thank you very much, and I think these are going to be a great addition to the Kiwanis Shelter and the park over there. So again, Dr. Murphy, thank you very much.
And I will say that this is, it was a hard decision, but it was fun. It was like completely enjoyable.
Oh, nice.
And I'm sorry, one
Councilmember Hauser?
more question. I'm sorry if this was overlooked in the notes or if it was discussed. Is there an ETA as to when this would go up?
August.
Yes. by
August, okay.
and So we're still on schedule.
Wonderful, thank you very much.
For arts and apples.
Great,
go.
oh, yeah, that would be.
Plan another ribbon cutting.
Another ribbon cutting, yes.
Further discussion? Councilmember King.
I was just gonna ask, is there gonna be any sort of like plaque or like dedication to the artist?
That's an excellent.
We
We
don't
do
have
have
that.
a side one on the other mural, so,
Usually sign the bottom of it somewhere.
yeah.
Yeah, we could do something along those lines. The idea with the panels is that they would stay for only a few years, so I don't know if we would want to incorporate it into the 4 panels themselves rather than on the Kiwanis shelter.
Yeah.
But I think that's
We'll
something
have to-
we'd be open to.
Right, definitely.
Maybe a QR code to the artist or
Yeah.
something?
Do something like that.
Yeah,
Because we do have that little square on,
Yeah.
GBV.
we do, yeah.
We can do a QR code.
Good.
Very good. And I'd just like to thank you for bringing it to the council. I know artwork can sometimes be controversial, so I think it's always good that this board takes a look at stuff that's going to go up around our city.
Another one's coming for crosswalks.
Yeah,
We're gonna bring
I
that to
would like
council,
to second
Oh, I
that.
didn't
I
know
would
that.
like to thank them for
So Madam Clerk, the roll.
Vixen,
Yes.
Salvia,
Yes.
Hauser,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
King,
Yes.
Sage,
Yes.
Trent.
Yes,
Thank you.
Good job, you guys.
Thank you.
You?
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is receipt of the check register. If there's any comments on that. And now on to report from the various boards and commission. First, a report from the Historical Commission. Councilmember Sage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had a successful Greater Rochester Heritage Days celebration here, despite any weather obstacles. As well, we sold a few of the Detroit Urban Railroad book. So everyone was very happy, particularly the artist or author of the book. He was in attendance and was able to sign copies for those patrons. So there is an update on the historical plaque program in that we had presented to this body and to the city the opportunity for a historical home banner, which is being proudly displayed up in City Hall at the front desk. So we thought we had a source for the printing of said banner, but we do not anymore. So we're going to try and take it here locally to the sign shop and see if Mo can help us out with that.
Very good.
I have a question.
Councilmember Trent.
Yeah, do you have any idea how long it takes to get your application approved for a,
For a historical home?
yeah,
Oh,
it's been about,
meeting. Do you have one in process?
I do.
Do you know anyone on council who could help you?
I don't want to call anyone out. I just, I thought for the future process of others, maybe I'm not that important.
We will we'll refer
Follow up
that
on
to Miss Anderson and find out where.
Yeah, that was, I wondered, yeah, well, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was a wonderful program.
Good to know people.
Very good. It does. Next is a report from Rah-Rah. Councilmember King.
Yes. So I don't know if anybody has, or if you have all seen, but there is new branding, new logos, for Rah-Rah. So this will be, coming out shortly. I think the old logo, they felt like it said Lara. So this is the new branding. It's fun, colorful. They are doing a new sign. And then, I think I talked about last time, the new awning. We had approved, a new structure for that. I do think it needs to come to planning commission, so that'll probably be, here at some point, or at planning commission at some point. Couple minor things. I think there are some trees along the trail. Alex, they probably already talked to you about this, but they had died, and they were hoping to work with the city to replace those from the tree fund. And they had a bike rack that was at the building next door that was recently sold, and they're relocating that bike rack that they own back to rah-rah. So there will be bike parking. Good. Which is nice since it's right off the trail. And then, you know, they made a comment that they would have loved to have seen the Kiwanis shelter become a 3-season shelter, so they'd have the usage of that during, I think, summer camp in the park. But I did point out that with the future, you know, new building that'll be part of the farmer's market, that might be a, you know, potential for if there's, you know, rain or something when they have summer camp as a potential use, so.
Yeah, very good.
But in the future, if we talk about Kiwanis shelter, something on the list.
Okay. Councilmember Jones.
I just want to add something to that Rah-Ya does with them. And it's called Camp Safari.
Oh, that's right.
And it is a wonderful camp for those that are low income. They added a bus pickup in Hampton Apartments, and so now they have 3 spots they pick up at the mobile home park, the apartments, Ridge Apartments, I can't remember the exact name, yeah. And Hampton, they have lowered the price to $20 a week. It's 8 weeks long. They pick the kids up, they bring them back, they take them to water parks. It is an amazing park. If anybody needs or knows of anyone, go on the website called Camp Safari. It's funded by Rah-Ya and the City of Rochester Hills.
Good, thank you. Next, we have a report from the Community House Board, Mayor Pro Tem Salvia.
Yep, thank you. So the Community House Board met May 21st. They meet the 3rd Tuesday of every month. Year-to-date financials, income is up slightly, expenses are stable. The final drawings will be done end of May, which is any day here. So those should be submitted to the city here shortly, and I know they've been working with city administration on that. So they also have a fundraising list and wish list that they're working for. The community house will be fundraising for the interior, you know, things like security cameras, tables, stackable chairs, painting the interior, things like that. They've got, and of course the kitchen is a biggie, so that's $200,000. So they've got $500,000 in fundraising that they are gearing up for the inside. That is all.
Any idea when construction?
Well, it gets through Planning Commission in July.
We'll move that forward as best we can.
It's on the agenda.
Yep, that's great.
All right, thank you. Next is the receipt of the report from the Paint Creek Trailway Commission. Is that Councilmember King?
Oh, yeah,
Or
that's right.
is that your report?
That's right.
It is. Yeah, I had the pleasure of attending. So just a couple things. I know there was some concern about the site plan approval for Planning Commission in terms of the currently licensed property that is licensed to Solaronics, because Solaronics is the one on the license agreement, but the developer that has proposed the project there is the one that's proposing to do the cleanup of it. He is not legally obligated. So, you know, you hope everybody's gonna fulfill their commitments and what they've said that they will do, but there is some concern around that. The Paint Creek Trailways Commission is going to be staying closely involved and engaged in that project. And then just the other thing that has been brought up, and I brought it to Nick's attention, I know he's gonna look into it now that he's back, but there's a section of trail between, it's the dirt portion as soon as you enter the trail from the south end of town up until like the bathrooms at the park roughly, where there's some drainage issues there, and the condition of the trail could probably use some attention. So I've asked Nick to take a look at that. My thought previously had been that was part of the Paint Creek Trailways. That portion is actually, my understanding is that is our commitment, and the city takes care of that piece of it. The Paint Creek Trailways Commission, I think, only comes to maybe Greg Street or so.
Where the daycare center is right there?
Yeah.
And then the rest is, we're on the way to Lapuma's,
Yep.
the sidewalk.
Yep, that last
That's the city's
stretch.
portion.
City.
Because
Yep.
that's the area that kind of always gets soggy and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Which Mr. Power had talked about when he was here a couple
Yes, he
meetings ago.
attended our
Yep.
meeting as
Oh,
well.
did he?
So.
Yep.
Mayor Pro
Yeah,
Tem
so
Sylvia?
kind of a follow-on question regarding the Clinton River Trail. We love our trails. They just had their 20th anniversary, and I know Councilmember Trent was able to be there at their celebration. What is our process to discuss or figure out, I know, again, we have a drainage issue over there close to DeQuinder, but then also, we probably need to start the discussion on what type of surface should be there, resurfaced. How do we do that? I know that's not an easy project, it's not an inexpensive project, so how does that work?
Yeah, so for years, it was, I can remember distinguishing between Vitrano and Roger Knapp. It was somebody just tell the city what you want, asphalt or do you want the limestone? So the runners don't want the asphalt because it's hot on their feet. The bikers want the asphalt because it's smoother and no dust. So it went back and forth, and literally, we can do what we want. There's no rules that says you can't. It's paved all the way to Romeo, and it seems like you would err on the side of paving it. We paved the extension that collapsed a little bit, but we've paved that. So if we are serious about it, we, the city council, can make that decision. We'll get an estimate, how much it costs, and we'd have to plan for it budget-wise. We could do a community survey, and I can guarantee it's gonna come back 50-50. We've tried this 5 or 6 times since I've been here. We can't get consensus. So if we want to just take the majority, it would be it's paved all the way to Romeo, and this is the only section that's basically not. Rochester Hills is a different kind of surface, but.
Yeah, Rochester Hills surface is not
it's-
aging well, because I think
it's
they
not.
use recycled
They do.
asphalt.
So we'd
and
have to do it
It's
right.
not aging.
We would have to do it right. So that's exactly what they do. So, we could certainly take that on next year, and goals and objectives come up. We'll in advance get an estimate what it would cost to do that run. It's not cheap, but it can be done.
I think we need to take a
Okay.
look at that for next year's goals and
I
objectives.
would agree.
It's getting tired.
I would agree. And the good news is, this spring, or this summer, the drainage will be fixed. When they redo DeQuinder, we got, a seal would not give in, saying you're changing the drainage pattern when you're redoing the crosswalk by the Onyx. And the county's like, that's not our problem. No, you're changing the opportunity for us to be able to tie into the sewer. And she got her way 2 weeks ago, and the guy's like, fine, I'll change the whole grade away from the Onyx and take the water to Shelby. And we're like, thank you very much. That's all we asked for. So everything stays the same, but they're gonna drain it differently, so that water can now clear under the trail.
Good.
And then get to the other side of the road where it should, underground. So we will be able to fix that anyway, so.
Councilmember King?
Wait, expand on that drainage. Are you talking,
Right,
that
we-
affects us
by
in the
DeQuinder.
park?
No,
Different.
I'm sorry, now we're down by the Onyx, Clinton
Oh,
River
okay,
Trail.
'cause
Yeah,
that-
different. No, sorry.
Okay,
Where it goes
okay,
uphill.
because the biggest drainage issue is by our park.
Yeah, no, two different.
So I think
They're both
even
issues.
if we
They're both
were,
issues.
even if we were to pave, which my understanding from being at the Paint Creek Trailways Commission, we have an obligation to maintain our section of the trail to their specifications. So
Which is limestone.
we would have to have it approved, I think, if we wanted to pave
No, we're
it.
not talking about, we're talking about paving from the Onyx to
Clinton River.
Elizabeth.
Oh, that
Clinton
portion,
River. We're on
okay,
Clinton River Trail.
Not Paint
got
Creek
it.
Trail.
Oh, yeah, that portion
You're right, because
is.
we would have to follow what they want.
Yeah, and when they were here, they said they would love to have discussion with us on that.
Okay. Yeah, they did.
Councilmember Trent?
Yeah, now that we're talking about drainage and trails. So my understanding is that the tot lot was brought up, that might be cement added to drain from that area, and isn't that kind of the same area you're talking about, that's a wet area, or?
Not, no,
Well,
separate.
whatever you do, there are GSI best practices, green stormwater infrastructure best practices of bioswales, and anything but cement is the last.
Yeah, there's no cement to be stored water in the new parks.
Oh,
In our
I'm just
park.
saying,
It's
I would
hard.
like to make sure that if it's brought up, I'd like to be part of that discussion, and, you know, and also if you're talking about wet areas, there's natural ways of addressing that.
Rain garden too.
Yeah, just throwing that out there.
We had three different topics there, so.
Yep.
I know. We got three, and
Sorry.
never even got
No, that's
to
okay.
that, the Clinton River Trail that's collapsed on the south side. So, yeah, that was interesting too. But I know you got, the experts are on that.
We are.
All right, next is a report from the DDA.
Oh, that's me.
Councilmember Trent.
Okay, on May 5th, there was an update on the purchase of the emergency vet hospital to be named the Graham, and the update was the purchase is going forward and is in its final stages.
Oh, good.
Yeah, Huntington,
Any closing dates?
no closing
Okay.
date.
Couple weeks.
Oh, okay, all right, they had some things to dot some i's and cross some t's. Huntington Bank has approved the usage of the back of their building to have a mural painted on it. That has been discussed for years, and they agreed to that. And so a committee, my understanding is a committee's been formed to do a search for a mural artist, because it's going to be a large part of that project, very visual. And the Oakland County grant for $925,000 is moving forward. Hopefully that will be delivered in 6 weeks or so, hopefully, because the DDA is fulfilling its part of that, the criteria for that grant. The Makers Market kickoff is June 22nd, and that's going to be exciting. And there was a presentation by Taylor Clayton about a concept of public art on the street, but they're going to have a special meeting, the DDA is, to discuss it on June 5th. So they can fast track that for approval and get it in front of council. For their,
Next meeting.
So that will be coming here on June 10th.
Correct.
and it will be finished by June
Permanent
11th.
3 or 4 year paint in the crosswalks right by the corner bar of the Roxy, that 4th Street Walnut thing intersection there, so it's pretty cool. But we'll see.
Yeah, to be, we saw some of the mural artists' work that they were hoping to work with if all goes as planned. Paint bucket is ready with paint brushes on June 11th, or whenever we approve it. June 10th, yes.
And you literally can go out and.
Yeah, you guys, you might pick up a paintbrush and help them get it done. All right, that was it.
Okay, thank you. Any other public comment? No. Brian, it doesn't look like anybody.
Thank you. There are no callers.
Thank you for being here tonight, Brian. Next is general miscellaneous, Mr. City Manager.
4 quick things. Mayor Pro Tem, you want to talk about the backup plan for Memorial Day, or you want me to bring it up?
You can.
Okay, so, everybody was sad. I was walking my dog last night, and they're like, oh, rain, that they were upset. Anybody, just sad that they couldn't have an event. Mayor Pro Tem and I talked this morning about, maybe we can have a backup plan. So I think Chief will acknowledge 50 to 60 people did come down for hot dogs, and so we got to celebrate a little bit. Obviously, we got to hear our emotional story tonight, but I think it would be prudent to have a backup plan, not the parade, that's not ours, but for our ceremony, either a big tent that has signs or to the fire hall, just shift if we have to. I think that's prudent, and we will be glad to do that on our own. So we'll have a plan for next year, because I know a lot of people put effort into that.
How about the Graham?
Could be.
It could
I mean,
be,
if it's
actually, it would
ready
be
by then.
perfect for
Yeah,
the
it'd be
grand, to be
perfect.
honest with you.
Yeah.
Location to the firehouse.
Yeah, no, that's actually a very
Yeah.
good idea. So, hope to use that a multi-purpose.
I will say, when Maggie called me, it was raining awfully hard.
It was. Oh,
So
they
it
acknowledged
seemed-
it didn't stop till after it would have been done.
Yeah.
So, and lightning, there was lightning, and that would not be a good idea, so. There's a lot of places got rained out. We weren't the only ones, so. So during staff meeting, we were talking about that. Chief C brought up another good point, that it's kind of, I'm going to say embarrassing, and I'm used to a community that, where I grew up, where I worked for years, decades, that we celebrated Veterans Day. I don't know why we don't here. and we never got any traction, but because of missing Memorial Day, staff would like to take the lead and do something special for Veterans Day. Plus, we are going to be redoing the World War II monument, so David Berlitich has taken, there's a committee that are working on that. It should be done in a couple of months. Mark, the painter, again, he said, you get the materials, I'll sandblast thing, paint it, we're going to fix everything in there, and I think this is the year that we just said we're going to do something for Veterans Day. And I think I will gladly plan that. We won't ask the chamber to plan it, we'll plan it ourselves. And then we can do some kind of event that day. We don't have to have the day off, it's just, let's do our own event. So, for comments.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
It's wonderful. You have
Can
my support.
Make a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember
No,
Jones?
I felt very strongly that, I was at Rochester High School when they started their putting the flags out and made a huge deal out of Veterans Day. All the high schools still, it's kind of embarrassing how much they do and we don't.
I totally
Now, I
agree.
don't mean just the city, I think in general, just, So I had proposed, but I kind of got shut down on it, so maybe it's something to think about, is why couldn't we just do flags, do more than that, but flags on the light poles, just to honor Veterans Day? I'd love that to be looked into as you're putting stuff together.
Yeah, no, we will come up with some options, and certainly there's gonna be an event that day, right there. We can do it easily right there. The
Awesome.
carports can be our backup plan if it rains, right? You can get underneath them, just move the cars, so it's all
We're
right
always
there.
going to have a rain plan, right?
Exactly. So coming soon, I'll let you know, Jason's working on it, might be next week, before next council meeting. We're ripping out the front of City Hall, cement only. We didn't ask for the big redo City Hall, it was like $100,000. So, Vince, who did the patio outside this door, we're gonna do that same pattern so they match. So they're gonna, DPW save money, is ripping it all out. We have to fix the drainage system, put conduit in for lighting, and then in about 7 days, at the most, it will be done. So we're gonna probably use this door for a temporary access, and we'll have handicap accessibility to the police department because the elevator works now again. So we can do that, but he's gonna try to do it in 3 days, literally, but it will at least freshen that up because there's different colors of cement, it's horrible. So we're gonna do that on the cheap too, compared to what we had it in the budget and stayed way underneath that even. So we'll bring that forward to you as soon as we have it done. Lastly, Jimmy Williams retires Friday after 26 years, something like that. Mike Lewis retires the end of July. Yep. So we're losing two stalwarts that have been with us for a long time. So if you see them, they're both low-key guys, like, we don't want to party. They're doing something at the yard for them. But if you see them, you can, congratulate them for their service, and they've done great work for us and appreciate what they've done. So that's it.
Thank you. Just for everybody's information watching, Nick, the Solaronics and the Airbnb potential short-term rental, that is the second meeting in June.
That's correct. So that's the 24th. Both of those will have public hearings scheduled.
So it's not, I think a lot of people think it's 2 meetings and it's going to be the 10th, and it's not. Just want everybody to know. Bring your sleeping bags. Just kidding, just kidding.
A little more hectic, interesting.
We're going to be having, no, just kidding. Madam Clerk?
Just to give council a heads up, at next meeting, I'll have a presentation and proposal for changing the pet license system and raising the fees and getting council's input on where you would want that price point put. I'll provide all the information. And next Monday, absentee ballot applications.
What?
Roll out.
Oh, yeah.
So election season will be in swing.
And Mayor, I want you to know, we coordinated with the tennis tournament. Early voting's right then, so we made a compromise about who gets how many spaces, so we can accommodate both at the same time, so.
Nice.
Tennis tournament and the election.
Correct.
Early voting at the same time.
Yep. Yeah, on the late night is that late night for that. So
We got it.
We'll,
For the August vote.
pardon?
August.
For August,
For
okay.
the
correct,
August, yes. So, we'll work it out. We can share that bill.
Mr. City Attorney,
Nothing, thank you.
Councilmember King?
I forgot 2 things from RARA that I wanted to highlight for you, for everybody here, and then anybody who might be watching. Because I thought these were really fun things. One, I've been hearing a lot of talk about pickleball, and there are pickleball classes They have a range of abilities, but they are seeing more of a demand for the beginners. So if you are interested in getting into that, or you know somebody who is, send them that way. And they have leagues as well, and the league, I believe, is at Borden Park. And I think there are some additional ones at Avondale Park, but there are leagues available and classes through RARA. So if you're interested, look there. And then they're also doing an adult and youth home run derby in July. It'll be on July 12th. I think it's going to be at Hallbatch Field, which is baseball and softball. I think the youth is high school aged. So that sounds like it'll be a lot of fun.
Very good. Mayor Pro Tem Sylvia?
Yes, thank you. City Manager, what's happening at Elizabeth Park? There's some taping and.
Yep. So in preparation for knowing that's our last abandoned park, I'm going to call it, we use that as a learning opportunity. So Jason's and one of the other operators that are good with the machines, taking guys up there, and we're removing all the pea gravel levels of danger. We're going to remove all the concrete. We're going to get it leveled, seeded, so we'll have pure grass there. As Jeremy's leading us into the fall with doing a community outreach to say, okay, what we're going to do something. What exactly do we want to do? So we're going to have it all ready to go. So it's literally not have to wait for demolition. We'll do the demolition now. So that's what they're doing.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I also wanted to thank DPW for putting up the flags in the cemetery. I did attend a history walk put on by Pat McKay in the museum the week before Memorial Day and learned about some of those who are buried there in Mount Avon. It was really informative and really interesting and well attended too. And then also I was asked to, before this meeting, to pick the winning raffle ticket for the Friends of the Rochester Public Library. They're doing, for their 100th anniversary, they're doing a raffle. So they probably asked me to draw it so that I would say this, but you know, you should buy a raffle ticket to support the Friends of the Library. So they're $100 and there's, I think, 3 more raffles and then the grand prize. So you can go to the website to get that. And that is all. Thank you.
Very good. Councilmember Sage?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One thing, it's never too early to start talking about America 250. So we actually have 3 Revolutionary War patriots buried in Mount Avon. So
Yeah, we do.
The Historical Commission would like to start planning something with the city to recognize these soldiers. So I just want to bring it up because I know it's a year away, but all these things get forgotten. So,
Councilmember Jones?
Just a couple of things. One, the concession stand will be open soon in the park, or around the softball fields. They have it staffed with raw employees. If there is a game there, it will be open and staffed. So they got, I think they bought a TV or not a TV, a refrigerator and a freezer already in there. They kind of know what their menu's gonna be, so I'm excited about that. I think they only have one night, league that will be going on Monday nights. They're gonna try and build that. Secondly, I just have to still make a comment, and I've done back chatter about this, about my concern about all the signs that are on the streets, those A-frame signs. I know that they're important to the businesses. I'm just very concerned now with the dining. It's pretty complicated to get down some of the sidewalks, so I'm very happy it's 10 less trash cans. So I am pleased with that, but I just wanted out there that I don't know what else we could look at instead of that, but it's not a good look, and I think it's a safety issue. So that, and then I just have a general question of procedure, because I know we all received an email from someone who's concerned about a house that has blight. So when that comes in, how does that process work?
So see Click Fix, we still use that. I tell people all the time, if you want to track something, don't call me, and then I tell them, get on See Click Fix, and then we will respond automatically.
What is that? What is?
See Click Fix, right on our website. If you have any issue, you put it in there. You can do it anonymously. You can put a number, you can ask to be updated, and then it gets assigned to the appropriate staff person. they're responsible for tracking it, putting in the public domain, this is what we're gonna do. This is, if we have to go to court and it takes 6 months, Attorney Crowell will tell you sometimes we try to avoid that because it takes too long, et cetera. So I will say this on the Taylor one. We've been in court with the owner of the property. We're waiting for a final dispensation of timing. It's not that he's fighting us all the time, but there was a misunderstanding on building permits, et cetera, that delayed it, but no excuse for being unclean. I will say this, that we are not allowed to, nor can we, without permission, go in somebody's backyard. We can't stand on a ladder. Today, Randy got asked to stand on a ladder and look over to see if somebody took out a French drain on the other side of the drain, and the neighbors are like, what are you doing? And so we have limitations, right? We don't drive up and down the street going in backyards looking for debris. The only way we know there's a bad situation, I happen to live behind one kitty corner that took us 3 years to get this guy in court to take out, 20 dumpsters full of stuff in his backyard. You go through a process. So the only way we know is if people complain, like the folks did on Taylor. So now Chief already, they've been out there, got a hold of the owner and said, listen, yeah, you're doing nice in the front so we don't catch you doing stuff. How about be a good neighbor? And then we can go after vermin. It's setting up situations for vermin and things that, my guy had 6 skunk families living in his backyard kitty corner. And he wouldn't admit it until they took all the debris out, and there's all the nice little skunks. So, and they were relocated. So we're aware of it, but the process is, if you let us know, we will follow up, and we'll follow up with you to let you know what we're doing. It's not always an easy answer, because if we get stuck going to court, it could take a long time. I think Chief's gonna wanna say something here, so. He gets these literally I'm not exaggerating, I'm gonna say every day in the summer, we get someone calling about something you would never think about. Today it was, can you look at the guy who ripped out his French drain? And the guy's like, I never had a French drain. So, Chief.
Have you ever seen the movie The Never Ending Story? Okay, well, that's kind of what we end up trying to do in some of these blight cases. We've processed 189 blight cases so far this year. That's since January the 1st.
Really?
We've been to court, how many times would you say, Mr. Attorney?
A number.
A number. We just so happen to be going back to court on Thursday with the gentleman who lives on Taylor to go ahead and finish things up. And in fact, I contacted him in regards to the note that council sent to me, and I have a meeting with him tomorrow at 4 o'clock to try to better educate him about some of his requirements. So, as the city manager was saying, we do drive up and down the streets looking for things. We don't get into backyards. If a neighbor sees something in a backyard, my next question is, well, can I come on your property and take a look at it so I can see it from their other property? And that's the way that we've kind of operated, so that we have permission as opposed to not violating people's personal rights from that standpoint. I would say that within our codes and ordinances, we want to go ahead and be consistent the way we apply things. And I coined the phrase many years ago, we just continue to turn up the politeness in regards to blight, and it'll probably be the never-ending story as we go about trying to maintain the character of the city of Rochester and protecting the tax values of all of its residents. I don't know if the city attorney has anything you might like to add to our process.
No, other than, city council has made it clear that blight you want blight to be addressed, and we're going to be speeding up the process a bit, continuing to work with the residents, both the ones that are complaining and the ones that are being complained about. Some are apologetic and get it done immediately, and some we don't hear from, and they don't show up to court, and we have to go through this process. But the message from city council has been received to John Shep is the fire marshal. I handle a lot of cases with him and fire chief, and we're now talking about repeat offenders and not going through the 2 notice process, just the one notice. Good. And then he mentioned the 345 Taylor that's on for Thursday, and we know that deciding. We know, we've seen it, the ticket's been issued, and we'll make sure that maybe the person who sent that information knows that I think they have been made aware of that it is in the court process and still sent the letter. But just let you know that that one is definitely on our radar, along with a lot of other ones. So we're doing it as fast and professionally as we can and the court allows. So we're on it.
So man, two anecdotes. Here's two quick stories. So one, 3rd Street, picture coming out of town, going on 3rd Street. There was a big, beautiful house there. Somebody made bank and sold it. It's a 100-foot wide lot. It happens to be zoned because of the lot. The way the ordinance is written, you can't split that lot. You just can't. So somebody gets to buy a 100-foot lot. So they sold it for like $1 million to this guy, the lot. Insane. So to build a duplex on it. So he got his plans approved by Randy, dug the hole, and then he's I'm not saying his name, so he's a doctor, and then he couldn't get financing for a condo, 2 condos, but he paid him that much money for the lot. So then then the hole's sitting there. So sure enough, we gave him 3 weeks. Randy, get on this guy. The neighbors next door, like, one's a renter and one is somebody in town that has done a lot of work in town that lives right next door in a gorgeous house that he paints every 3 years. He's like, how much patience can you have with these guys? So we threatened to take him to court. So just fill the hole in and put an orange fence around it if you're going to start building. So he put the orange fence around it, but didn't fill the hole in. 3 weeks go by, we have to threaten court, he fills in the hole. Okay, now you have to put seed down and straw. So this spring, he put the seed down with no straw, birds ate all the seed. We're like, all right, what's so hard about this? Put the straw down. So he does, then guess what happens? All the grass grew up through the orange fencing. So we told him, we're done. We're going to go do it. Yeah, we're going to go do it, and we're going to charge you our rate, which would have been like $1,000 to cut it. So he contacted some guy. Guy came out, took the orange fence down, but didn't trim the weeds. Then the next day, we called him and said, I drive by it every morning. So I called him and said, okay, now you have to cut the weeds, but you have the silt fence in that you can't cut because it's plastic. 5 times to just get it simply down to now it's graded, seeded, strawed. Okay, now on the other hand, last night I'm walking my dog, and the fence on my block, they're building another new home. So John Bloomingdale, give him credit. He put up a beautiful fabric fence around that property to minimize the impact on the residents. Nobody does that. They just say, put up with it. He put a fabric fence. Neighbors were ecstatic. Fence came down just before I left, the day before I left last week, and that meant now you can see what the house looks like. Well, it was almost 2 weeks, and there was a cooler sitting there with a Coke on it. The guy next door, I stopped Pete yesterday, and he's like, I said, did you call C-Click Fix? I told you to, so we can track this. Did you call Mr. Bloomingdale? I don't want to get him mad. And that's what happens. They don't want to let you go on a ladder and look, because then they know, the neighbor knows you turned them in. On C-Click Fix, you don't have to put your name on there. We just have to do it. So I called John at 11 o'clock last night. He picks up the phone. I said, John, the weeds are this tall between the sock and the curb. You took the fence down. Now all the debris sitting out. By 9:30 this morning, it was cut, clean, dumpster organized, ladder off the roof that the kids could climb on. That's the good side. Some people will respond. Some you have to take to court. Is the moral of that story. So we try to be as polite as we can until you can't.
Mr. Mayor, if I can jump in. So one of the things that we also need to keep in mind, and I mentioned this in my previous communication, is that there's people have different levels of what they find to be acceptable or not. And, it is not A+, everyone has to have the same. So one of the things that we do run into is we get people saying, hey, they have, weeds all over the place, and they have someone has a few weeds in their garden. And unless city council tells us otherwise, the fire department doesn't have the manpower to write violations for a few weeds in the grass or the flower beds. I mean, don't come to my house right now, I'm just saying. But, there is a standard, and, one of the things that we would run into, not so much anymore, but a little bit, is when an HOA gets involved, and they would go to the city and say, you need to do this, city, you need to do this, you need to do this, and it's far beyond the standard that the city would require, but not that particular homeowners association would want. And so oftentimes the HOAs would use the city to be the bad guy versus going and enforcing their own standards on their own members. So, while we do what we can, and the fire department does a fabulous job with the resources they have and the instructions given, there is a different level of, they're not gonna write a violation for a few weeds in a flower bed. It's just, that's untenable. So I put that as, we talk about that weekly, about does this constitute blight, does it not? And, you're talking to people that have different interpretations of what's acceptable, what's blight.
And on the grass cutting, so it was so cheap before, people would let it go and let us cut it. 'Cause they're like, I don't have to get a mower, I want to let you cut it. Well, we don't do that anymore. It's $800 to cut your grass. You'll only have us do that one time. We make sure that we time in, we drive mileage, depreciation on the truck, the gas, the hours, the equipment, and we can justify it if they take us on, but no more, we're gonna be your grass cutters for free, so.
So a few things, and obviously anyone who's watched these meetings know this is an issue that's pretty dear to me. So I did talk to Chief beforehand, and we talked about some of these issues that are present in our blight ordinances, plural. And Chief and I have, we're gonna try and sit down and go together, and Jeff and Mr. Banda, you two, to kind of see if there's some things that we can tweak and refine and maybe strengthen a little bit to take out some of the subjective nature of what is blight, okay? And I agree with you, a couple weeds here and there isn't going to, warrant a citation or ticket. It's the cumulative effect. It's the blight, it's the no siding, it's the roof that doesn't have shingle. We all know it when we see it. And then I think there's another component about, you, Mr. Banda, you talk about the property. I know exactly where, it's right over just west of Pine, right? And that to me is someone who's thumbing their nose at the city, saying, I'm gonna do what I want, and there's nothing you're gonna do about it because I know the game. You're gonna issue a ticket, you're gonna come back, you're gonna ask me this, and I just think that that's the kind of scenario that we really need to nip in the bud and say, these are the rules that everyone has to abide by, and if you can't get with the program, we'll help you get with the program. And then I also am very, very easy to distinguish that there's certainly hardships in the community that people are gonna have. And that warrants a separate type of handling, and Chief, I know you do it very well. Hey, maybe there's some health issues, maybe there's some economic issues, maybe there's some just other, someone's got something going on in their life that prevents them from doing certain things at their house. And those are the things that I think we have to be also cognizant of and say, okay, how can we as a community help you? Do we have to ask the neighbors to come over and maybe cut the lawn a little bit or spruce up a little bit? That, to me, is a completely separate scenario than than a landlord or a property owner who just doesn't care, and to the detriment of the adjacent property owners, so.
And being that the people talk to you guys, Mayor, we just did this, James that passed away, his mom was grieving hard, and we cut the grass. We didn't send her a bill. The guy's like, I'll do it on my own time.
100%.
Somebody planted trees for somebody that was grieving, that couldn't plant the trees, so let us know. That's not an odd ask, and you're right, if somebody's thumbing their whatever at us, then that's a whole different story, but we aim to help.
So to recap, so Chief and I'll reach out to you and we'll come up with a date, and again, Mr. Banda and even Jeff, if you're there, we'll sit down and kind of see if we can streamline some of these ordinance, language, and then come back to city council and say, okay, here's what we've done and here's what we think some improvements would be.
Mayor, two things. Somebody called about Moon River's grass. Not only did they cut the grass, but guess what came in today? The site plan. It's going to the 3 stories Palo. It's a pizzeria on the first floor, office on the next 2 floors. Brought the plans in today and cut the grass. And today came in the foundation permit for the riverfront place. It's.
He has one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
He brought the plans. Randy is looking at it. We're gonna have a meeting, let everybody in the area know if this gets approved, the plans get approved, how we're gonna truck dirt, how long it's gonna take. We'll send out a letter to everybody on First Street, Second Street, so they know what we're doing, so. It's gonna get started. That's exciting, so.
Just one other thing just to add, about 90% of our blight cases are on the west side of the city. And it's not surprising because more than 90% of our rental properties are on the west side of the city too. So coalition, that, probably so. We see a lot of issues that we have with our rental homes, and it's not necessarily with the rental person who's staying there, it's with the landlord and the way they intend to maintain the outside of the structure. Just something to consider.
Sure. So Chief, while you're up there, can we get maybe a brief report on the explosion downtown?
Sure. First of all, I would like to compliment all of the city resources, police, DPW.
Absolutely.
And my team from the fire. As you might imagine, it's around 8:41 when the first call came in to the fire department of a structure fire. It was reported at that address. En route, the firefighters heard an explosion from the propane tank. When they got to the scene, it was very chaotic, as you might expect. People all over the place, many of them were seekers to see what was going on, and then also with the injured. And so the first engine crew and ambulance who got on the scene jumped into action to go ahead and bring some semblance to the chaos that was going on. And as we were lucky, Rochester Hills Advanced Life Ambulance was coming back from a call from Station 5 when this all happened. So they just stopped and jumped right in with our crew to go ahead and help out. We activated our mass casualty protocol because at that time we knew that we had multiple people hurt didn't know how many at the time. They started to go ahead and treat the patients. Our dispatchers went ahead and started getting resources for us. As you saw in my report, we called a lot of fire departments. We had Washington Township, we had Shelby, we had Sterling Heights, we had Addison, Auburn Hills, Rochester Hills. We actually at one point in time had Bloomfield Township heading our way because of another medical emergency that we had in town. To go ahead and get to the point, we're still finishing up the investigation, but it was a propane tank, the best I can describe. It's, as you're familiar with your barbecue grill. I ended up speaking to the Department of Transportation twice last week from the federal government. They call them 5-gallon cans because it's similar to a 5-gallon bucket. We're still trying to figure out when the employee lit the tiki torch or the heater out front, it started to flame up. It got pushed over. The employee went to go ahead and get a fire extinguisher. And at that point in time, the tank blevied. And blevy stands for boiling liquid expanding vapor. Just a reminder to everybody, propane is liquid. And when you tip it on its side, it starts to spill out the nozzle. And as it spills out the nozzle, the fire gets bigger and hotter. And the tank then starts to heat up because it's normally cooled by the liquid. The tank failed catastrophically and spread shrapnel across the city block, all the way from the point of location down to Bean and Leaf, across to the Donuts, and across the street. We had ended up with 5 seriously injured people. I don't have all of the information on their injuries, but they're recovering. We treated and released 2 other people who did not want to go into the hospital. So great help from the Oakland County Sheriff. Their investigator is working with us to go ahead and finalize the report. There was damage done to several buildings. Next door to the Realty store, the overhead sign was blown off the front of the building, and several of the lights down the block were knocked off as the top portion of the tank. If you can think about a barbecue tank, half of it ended up down by Bean and Leaf, and the other half of the tank ended up in 1-inch pieces spread around Main Street. So great job by police, fire, and you know, we always count on the DPW because they come in and help clean up after us. So great job by our DPW guys who came in and helped to clean up everything to make the streets safe because they were covered with shrapnel all over.
And within 15 minutes, Mayor Barnett and Tom Tangi from Auburn Hills were texting me, calling me like, I'm sending guys right now, just so you know, because I know you'd be there for us. So that was pretty cool. I mean, like, they saw it on TV, and they were already sending people, so that's pretty cool.
Happy to answer any questions that I might be able to.
So is there any liability on the owners? Was that just a freak accident or was?
This is where I get to say I'm just a fire chief, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
We'll do a good thorough report, and I have some follow-up that I have to do with the Department of Transportation because of, it's a DOT cylinder that failed. And then we'll have the reports ready for any of the attorneys who may request it. So I would not, I would stay in my lane, Mr. Mayor, and I'd say just a fire chief, sir, and I'll leave it at that.
So DOT cylinder, so anyone that has a propane tank, like on your backyard patio
Yep.
grill, those are all DOT cylinders?
They're all DOT approved and designed cylinders. Didn't know that until I got called. I'm on vacation and getting ready to have adult beverage, and I'm getting this phone call that's identified from the federal government, and I'm going, well, I paid my taxes on time, and it ended up being a gentleman from the Department of Transportation that I spoke with twice last week.
If you remember, you used to be able to take your tank to a place, not so much anymore, because those caps, and then there's a tag on it that they are certifying that's screwed on right. Didn't used to be that way. You could take them to places, fill them up yourself. You can't up north.
You can still take them to U-Haul over here and do it.
Yeah, and they got an inspector there that makes, he's certifying that that's put on right.
All right.
The one thing I would like to go ahead and, for anybody who's listening, just some safety lessons the fire department would like to share with you that when you do go ahead and pick up your tank, please make sure if you have it in your vehicle that it's standing up straight and it's not laying down. When you get it home and you get ready to go ahead and change the tank, believe it or not, please make sure you do it outside. When you do change the tank, use some soapy water, either in a spray bottle or a brush, and go ahead and wipe over all of the couplings, not only at the tank, but the couplings that are between that tank and your grill. And then slowly turn the tank on and check for any leaks. If there are no leaks, then you're in great shape. If there are, then turn the tank back off and take corrective action to make sure the leaks are corrected and taken care of. Whenever you're done with your grilling, whatever you're cooking, please make sure that you turn the tank off and that you continue to follow those types of safety rules when you're doing it.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for
Okay.
your good work.
Just like to, as the city manager mentioned, this is a case of where mutual aid and the relationships that we have all built in the area with our other departments and things had really paid off. And so I'm so very proud of the men and women in the city of Rochester, police, DPW, and the fire department, and the relationship that we have with all the other departments. It should be good that our residents feel safe in their homes, that we have that type of relationship. When we have something like that happens, that we have the resources available to us.
Very good. Thank you, Chief.
I'm next.
Councilmember Trent.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Chief Cieslik, for all that you did. Yes, the Heritage Festival I did attend on Sunday, and it was a really nice event. It was beautiful. Loved the vintage cars, and the 64.5 Mustang was there, one of my favorite cars. The music and the food and the artists were also, it was a lovely day. The hot dogs on Memorial Day, although I don't eat hot dogs, I was just glad to see all the people that came, and Chief Cieslik and his team put on a nice little event there for us. I'd also like to say that Maggie Bobetts, the executive director, who was the one who had to make the decision to cancel Memorial Day event for us. She sent an email, and she said that at 7:30 a.m., she had 8 out of 19 entries cancel with her via text, including the band. And the weather maps at 7:30 showed a band of weather that was moving towards the city, included a lot of thunder and lightning. And one must remember, there is a very large, tall steel pole with a flag on it that we would all have been standing near. So, unlike the Christmas parade where they have shelters for the participants, they don't have that option for Memorial Day. So I do stand by her decision, and I know it was very hard because I know Maggie Bobbitz does love a parade. And I would also, we all do, don't we? And I'd also like to just not say too much, but just to keep this discussion moving forward of all the stuff on Main Street. And then when you add the dining, because we want to help our merchants, but then when you cannot get down the sidewalk very well, I have pictures of where you literally have to move an A-frame to get around a corner. So there needs to be some kind of discussion, some direction given, because not everyone can put their planters out. And one of the things was the propane, those were decorative that blew up on Main Street. You just can't put, like it's not your back porch. And I honestly, I'm sorry to say this, but it's just filling up, and I know we want to be a flexible, kind city, but this really needs to be looked at, and I'm concerned about safety at this point. I would like everyone to walk down Main Street and give me their opinion on really how they would feel if you were with a buggy or with 2 or 3 people, how to navigate that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Hauser?
Sure. Just in quick response to Councilmember Trent's comments, I would agree. Maybe it's just a conversation that you have to have with all the business owners. Hey, this is where we would like these signs to go, because there is a lot of, zigzagging back and forth. So I would agree with you on that one. I had 3 comments to make. One was the Solaronic status, and we've agreed that's June 24th. The second was obviously to talk about some of the blade issues, so thank you, Chief Cieslak, for doing that. And then the third, I'm happy to report that since our discussion earlier at the meeting, I have procured Laura Murphy to sit on the compensation committee. So she sent me a text that she would like to be a member of the compensation committee, so we need, well, technically 1 more. In a perfect world, we'd have 3 more. So there's another person I have in mind that I'm gonna hit up later on, but I think this is getting the word out and maybe tapping some people that we all know in the community. It shouldn't be that much of a challenge to fill those spots. I think it's just us going directly to those people saying, hey, you would be excellent for the compensation committee, and here's why. And then you say, okay, great, I'm glad you agreed, and then you go back and tell again.
Very good.
Does the
Councilmember King?
compensation committee only look at the council and board's compensation?
Just council.
Okay.
Just to council.
So
They meet once every 2 years.
So laying out the time commitment, right, is fairly limited.
That would be the one to get on, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, yes. So if you're gonna be on a committee, that's the
The
one.
compensation committee does not get compensated.
The
It's
irony.
actually a commission.
Just with thanks and appreciation.
Right.
Isn't it a commission? I mean, beyond a
It's a
commission,
commission, yeah.
I think.
The compensation commission, yes, I'm sorry.
Get
Yes.
higher status to that.
So good news is we got 1 down.
Thank you.
Good for you.
So I just have a couple quick things. One, there is Saturday at 10 a.m., the police department is having their open house. It starts at 10 a.m., and it's their 100th anniversary as a department, so they're going to have a little opening ceremony. So if you can attend, and, there's lots of things for kids and things, and if you like to look at the police cars and the, things like that. So that's going on. And then just a suggestion I had, I was going to talk with Nick about is, we talked about the library situation and stuff, and I thought, an idea I had was for Nick and I to maybe get on to their calendar to go to one of their meetings and just say, hey, kind of, what's the understanding of what they're doing? We may, is there any negotiation, how much it costs? Is there things we can talk about? Just kind of get a better feeling for them and what they are asking for, because obviously, I think we felt like, there was some communication issues, so maybe a chance for us to go and be proactive and reach out. So, I think that's something, and again, not confrontational at all.
Yep.
Just kind of an information gathering thing. So Nick and I are gonna, try to
Thank
do
you,
that.
Mr. Mayor. So, Rich Kendrick just remind me, so Saturday morning at 8:45, so, his group, the Homeowners Association of Stony Point, got a grant from Plant a Tree, a big one, for 40 trees. So we're gonna pay, the tree fund's gonna pay for like $2,500 matching, and they got all the other trees donated. They dug the 40 holes already. They're gonna plant at 8:45. He wanted somebody from the tree community to come and speak. I know almost everybody's out of town. Are you out of town, Marilyn?
I'm in, yeah, I'll be in, yeah, I'm out of
You
town.
will be in town?
I will, I'm out of town.
You're out of town, and you're out of town.
Out.
And I'm gonna get somebody for him. If Mayor, would you wanna?
8:45?
8:45 in Stony Point, and then you come right to the police station, because I think you're gonna speak at the police station, so.
Wow.
He would love that, because he asked, and I said, I know the mayor's gotta do something at the
Are you in
police
town,
station.
Chris?
I am in
I'm
town.
in town too, yeah.
Whoever-
We can.
That's it. Then you get tased by the police.
Because I think you're speaking with the police right at 10, Mayor, right? So that, I said if the mayor can get there, it would probably, he'll just do it. It's like, walk around, give you a couple things to say, and then, and we'll be good. It's part of the grant. I took care of all the publicity for them, because there's certain things you had to do to make sure you fulfilled it. So I got it out on social media, did all that, and they just need one person to speak for a minute.
So trees at 8, police at 10.
8:45, and then 10.
Tennis at 12.
There you go.
Got it all.
You got it covered. Thank you. All right, I'll let, he'll be ecstatic, so, okay, gotcha.
Okay, so thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.
2 hours early.
Hey, Chris.